So welcome to Cooking Fun with Joanna. I am Joanna Hodorowska with Nutrition in Motion, and I am a holistic nutritionist and inflammation expert. And one of the ways to take care of yourself is to be able to eat better, move better, and sleep better. And cooking is the best way to take care of yourself better and eat actually real food that you prepare yourself. And it lessens the preservatives, any kind of additives, sugars, things that you really don't want in your meals. So tonight we are making a butternut squash risotto, and we're gonna have, I think they originally I said to put it all in one pot, but we're actually gonna be caramelizing things in a pan while the rice cooks in another pot, and add some mushrooms and the spices, the cumin, the coriander. We're probably going to add garlic because garlic always makes everything taste better. It's anti-inflammatory. It's good for the good bugs in the intestinal tract, boost the immune system, and we're probably going to add that. So you'll need an onion, you'll need ground cumin, ground coriander, the rice. I already started soaking it, but I forgot that you're supposed to soak it in vegetable broth. So I'm going to add a packet of vegetable broth concentrate to my rice so that it does what it's supposed to do and have that same flavor. But you want to measure out, depending on how much you're doing, it's going to be basically a cup, a cup of rice and then at least a good 1 3/4 cup of fluids. So it can be water with the broth concentrate, or it can be the vegetable broth. Simple, right? I'm only going to make half because it's only for me. So I made a 1/2 cup of rice with a 1.5 cups of water. Okay?
Okay.
Everybody follow along. And just for extra shits and giggles, I did actually chop up a piece of garlic and let that soak in here. So you can go ahead, and if you've already got that going, or in the pot, you can go ahead and start it, because I think it needs to cook a little bit. We'll probably need to have it cook for a good 20 minutes before we can stir everything in together and get all the flavors blended. Okay?
Yep.
And I want you to
Right, so we're putting the rice in the pot with the.
But you're going to turn on the frying pan, because, and if you've got an electric stove, definitely turn it on high. Otherwise, use the medium setting. Steve, you look like you're having an issue.
I am an issue, so.
Well, we all have issues. I know that, but it's like, is there anything I can help you with?
All right, I came in late, so we're putting the rice in the
That's
pot.
okay. We actually just started, so you
We're putting the rice
missed
in the pot with the
just
broth.
the introduction. So you're doing either a 1/2 cup or a full cup of rice, and
Okay.
twice the amount of fluids. I did water, so I'm gonna have to use a packet of vegetable broth concentrate, but just use the broth, because that'll give it some extra flavor.
All right.
So what we're gonna do
Instead of a cup and a half, instead of a cup and a half of broth, I'm going to use 3 cups.
you're basically doing twice the amount of water and fluids,
Okay.
either the water or the broth to the amount of rice. So if you're doing a 1 cup of rice, then you'll put 2 cups of fluids.
Okay.
So in the other pan, we're waiting for that to heat up. We're going to put a little bit of ghee and a little bit of butter or olive oil in there. And ghee is actually an anti-inflammatory oil. It's made from butter. Maybe one of these days I'll actually make a class on how to make your own ghee, because really it's simple, and you can get the butter flavor without it burning, because it gets the milk solids out of it. So you're going to take an onion and cut it in half, and you're going to actually cut it into thin slices. So it doesn't have to be diced. It's just going to be thin sliced. And I will do my demonstration here for you so that you can see what it is that I'm doing. And I cut it in half already, and you're best off with a big butcher knife. And I like, this one actually very good handle. It's very nicely weighted. But you're going to peel off the probably 2 layers of at least the 1 layer of the onion. And make sure that you don't have that that almost invisible layer. And if you have like this black spot, that's probably not something you want to put into your meal. So we're going to get rid of that. And I actually collect all my veggie ends and throw them into the woods behind my house as my natural composting solution. So you're just gonna be slicing it into 1/4 inch or less slices. But we're gonna be caramelizing the onions along with the with some of the criminy mushrooms, and probably half of this is going to be, I think this is 2 cups, so we're going to do half of that and put that into the pan to caramelize it and give it some really awesome flavor before we mix it in with the rice. And make sure that you're holding on, digging your nails into the end, and then get rid of the tail, because you don't want to cut your finger. That could be a problem. I'm gonna put my ghee in and some olive oil. And then I'm just gonna take this and put it into the pan. I'm gonna make sure that you wanna make sure that the oil is covering the bottom of the pan. So as you do it more frequently, it becomes easier. The first time around, it might be a little bit sloppy, but that's okay. So I'm gonna do the other half of the onion and do exactly the same thing. And these onions I got actually from a farm, and they seem to be having a little bit of this exterior problem. But I'm just gonna cut this off, get rid of those moldy little parts, and cut the rest of it. You're gonna use as much as you can. And once we cook it, it should all be fine, but we definitely don't want to have visible mold thrown into our food. That could be a problem. Even though onions are good for the immune system and good for feeding the good bugs in the intestinal tract, if they're covered in mold, it doesn't matter if you cook it. It's not going to be a good outcome. So let's put that into the pan. And the next thing is going to be the mushrooms. So you're going to also get rid of the button, or not the button, what do you call it, the stem, and just slice it into as narrow slices as you can, and also add that into the pan. And if you can see, I'm trying to move.
I got it for you.
You'll probably be better off using a spatula rather than using the knife, because you don't want to cut the edge, but just try to get the onions to cover the bottom of the pan, so that way they'll start to caramelize, okay? And you're gonna pop off the stem and slice the criminy mushrooms or the baby portobellos. And you can either just cut a bunch of them, then put it in, or put them into that pan as you go along. But you want these to be thinner. So if you can see, these are like quarter inch slices, okay? I'm just gonna grab a couple of them here. I'd be a little expeditious this way. A little bit of time, I guess. Then put that into the pan. Try to spread it around as well as you can. And you're basically gonna do, I think that was 4 mushrooms, basically about 10 of the criminy mushrooms. So it'll end up being maybe about a cup of the mushrooms. And if you had a portobello mushroom, you would basically use 1, maybe 1.5, depending on the size. So you're basically doing just a cup of the mushrooms. And again, slicing them really thin and then throwing them into that pan with the onions. And then we're going to use a cup of the, I'm going to take all of these and put them right into my pan. I'm going to get myself a wooden spoon. I prefer using a wooden spoon for these kinds of things. So I'm going to go ahead and move my mushrooms around and move some of those onions. And see if we can get them to start to caramelize a little bit, or at least right now they're just gonna start getting reduced, and the mushrooms will sweat. Just let that sit there for a while, and we're gonna cut up the
Squash.
squash. So the squash, this is gonna be another one where you're just gonna cut them into slices. So even though they're cubed, which is the easiest way to do it, you just want to cut them into 1/2-inch slices. And again, add that into the pan. And you might need to turn the heat up just a little bit just to get everything going, but you don't want it on high, you want it on medium. And it should be starting to sizzle pretty good. I think that's a technical term. Sizzle pretty good. Like I said, we're gonna do about 1/2 cup of the butternut squash. And your rice should be starting to it should be starting to warm up. Probably isn't coming to a boil yet, so we don't have to really pay attention to it too much. But with a package like this, you're basically cooking 1/2 of the package. If you're making one batch. If you want leftovers, you can do obviously more. Put that into something smaller. Cut that in 1/2. The beauty of cooking is that nothing has to be perfectly sliced and diced. And nothing has to be in perfect proportions like in baking. Kind of to be a little bit more creative, because I took a base recipe and added a few extra things to it just to make it more appetizing.
Sure.
And butternut squash is one of those squashes that it's a vegetable. It actually is good, it's a winter vegetable. And it's one of those vegetables for the winter season. And since we're still technically in winter, and the groundhog said that we still have what, 6 weeks?
6
I guess
more
it's
weeks.
5 more weeks of winter. Then we're gonna cook with some of those winter vegetables.
Hello.
And if you wanted to, hello, you could also add some kale and spinach into this if you wanted to add some greens.
Okay.
But we are not going to do that today because I think it's going to make it a little bit too complicated.
What are we doing with the cauliflower?
Did I add cauliflower in here too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to forget the cauliflower.
What?
All right. You're going to put the cauliflower, you're going to dice the cauliflower. And what I'm going to do is, you guys are going to make cauliflower. I'm going to put in broccoli. So at least I have something that's similar, but a little bit different. Yeah, here I am, the chef, and I forgot one of the main ingredients, right? Crazy. All right, so what you're gonna do is I'm using broccoli, but I'm not quite done with the squash, so I'm gonna continue cutting the squash. This will have another 3 or 4 of these to cut, so I'm gonna pull them out. And then we'll go to the broccoli and or the cauliflower. Just be sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing, because otherwise something slips and then you might lose a finger. And that would not be a good thing. All right. So now that all goes into the pan. Go ahead and mix that. We're gonna go ahead and just stir everything. Then we're gonna add some of the spices. And if you look, the rice is just starting to bubble. I don't know if you can see that, but the rice is just starting to bubble. So it's gonna be a little while before we turn it down to simmer. But just go ahead and stir all of your veggies here. And now we're gonna chop up the broccoli and the cauliflower into this pan as well. And then we're gonna put in the spices. Okay? So you're gonna cut up, take a half a head, a quarter head. I have a small head of broccoli here. And you're just gonna slice it into 1/2-inch slices to start. And you do have to kind of saw it a little bit and hold on to it because it kind of falls apart. But now what you're gonna do is you're actually gonna turn the whole cutting board sideways so that you can actually cut it and dice it. And this is where you know, if you have a big butcher knife like this one, it works a little bit better. So that's step 1. No, that was step 2. Now you gotta cut these other ones into smaller pieces. You probably have to turn the cutting board again and just cut big pieces into smaller pieces. So it's basically shredded. And if you don't want the stuff like this, then just pull it out and toss it. But this is how we're going to do the broccoli or the cauliflower. And then you're going to take this and put that into the pot or pan.
That goes in the pan with the
With the
vegetable.
onions and the squash, yes, and the mushrooms. And now I want to cut up a garlic clove or 2 because I think garlic is just going to give it a nice extra zing. So I'm going to do 2, whoops, maybe it'll be 1 big clove of garlic. This is like 4 cloves, look at that, 4 cloves stuck together. So I think I'll just do that one. So I'm just gonna peel the garlic. This one seems to peel okay. And you can, you know, mince it or put it into, just cut it into slices, however you want. So being that this one's a big piece, I'm gonna at least cut it into, I'm just gonna cut it into slices like this. And then on the bottom part, I'm gonna change direction. And you're gonna add the garlic into that squash, mushroom, broccoli, cauliflower medley. I think we'll call it a medley. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right. So that is that. We're gonna move over here. And now you gotta make sure that everything is actually on the bottom of the pan, right? And so go ahead and mix it all up. My rice already like soaked up all the liquid. I think that's what happens when you soak it ahead of time. I'm gonna have to try mine to see how it is, but I'm pouring in my chicken broth concentrate because I forgot to use the chicken broth in the first place. So I'm gonna try a teeny bit of the rice and see how it is. No, you can't see me, can you? I am here.
Aren't you just outside, little man?
Definitely still not ready, so. But what I'm gonna do, mine still needs quite some time, so. Yeah. Just adding a quarter cup of the broth so I can mix all of my concentrate in with my rice. And I don't think you're really supposed to upset the rice when it's cooking. I think that was just a culinary faux pas, but oh well, that's what we're doing. So you should start to notice that, well, I don't know if you're noticing it or not, but you may start noticing that the onions are caramelizing and you may not. If they're not, then you might need to just not stir it for a little bit and see if it does. But we're gonna go ahead and put some salt and pepper on here. And then we're gonna add a teaspoon of the coriander and a heaping teaspoon of the cumin. And a little bit of pepper, because pepper always makes it a little bit more zingy. If you wanted to make it even more anti-inflammatory, because broccoli and cauliflower are both anti-inflammatory, you could add some turmeric root. This is what a dried out turmeric looks like, but turmeric root is it looks more like a finger, and it has a little bit of that, or very much of the very orange center. So I think just for fun, I'm going to actually chop one up and throw a little bit of that into my dish. I'm going to add some of the turmeric in. And then adding the pepper is also another way to increase the absorption of that turmeric. So what are we doing? A heaping teaspoon of, oh, this is a tablespoon. That could be, I like cumin, but maybe not that much. Oh, goodness. All right, so a teaspoon of cumin. Like I said, it's a heaping teaspoon. So you're gonna sprinkle that over your veggies. And then a teaspoon of the coriander. Now I'm gonna stir this all together. And now you can see the onions and all the food starting to caramelize and brown. That is what we were trying to get. That was the effect that we were trying to attain. So now to guarantee that all of that is going to be cooked, you can either just leave it like that, but you're going to be better off putting a lid on it so that it doesn't dry out. And if you want, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little bit of the, I'm going to put like a quarter cup of, or a couple tablespoons of the vegetable broth in so that all the veggies just kind of are soft. We just want to guarantee that it's all soft. We don't want anything left to chance. But this way you won't get burned, you won't get the burned flavor, you'll just get the softness. And you only have to add like I did, a tablespoon or two of the liquid. So you don't have to add a lot, just a little, but that will help to kind of guarantee that everything is going to be soft once we add it with the rice. And I actually brought another pot. I don't know what's going to be easier, okay? Is to mix it all together in a pot or mix it together all in the pan. What do you guys think?
We should put it in the pot. Well, I got a big enough pot, so.
So you're going to put the vegetables into the rice?
Yep.
Or are you going to put it into a third pot? Because my rice pan is kind of small.
I got a big pot for that.
You got a
rice.
big pot? All right. So I got a bigger pot, so I'm gonna mix everything else in this bigger pot. So I guess I lied in the description saying that, you know, what we needed. We need a third pot, or maybe you just get a bowl to mix everything into. So I'm gonna do a sneak taste on the vegetables. And if you don't have one of these little kitchen grips, these things are great, especially for these metal handles. It helps to kind of push down on some of these vegetables and see if they're soft. Some of them are and some of them are not. I'm gonna take a little bit out of here with a piece of broccoli and give it a wee little bit of a taste test to see if it is, well, we know it's hot, but I want to see if it's actually soft, because if it's not soft, then we're going to leave it there for another minute or two. I know, the hardest part. I don't want to burn my tongue either. All right, so most of the stuff is actually soft, which is what we wanted. And then what we're going to do at the end, that is actually really good. I think mine still needs a little bit extra salt, but what we're going to do as well is we are going to throw in a handful of either pine nuts or walnuts into this, give it a little extra anti-inflammatory oils. And then we're going to mix our two things together so that we have a dish. Try my rice together to see how that is. My rice is not soft. So we're ready for the next step. Blending everything together.
You got a second?
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn off both of my burners. And I take my big pot.
Okay.
And where's that little, take this thing off. I'll drain in there. Put the hot lid in this thing. And I think I'm going to do a layering thing. So that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take some of the rice and layered it on the bottom. And then I'm gonna take I do this with the left hand is the question. And then I'm gonna take half of this and mix it in the pan. And then I'm gonna mix that all together. Ooh, that looks good. Check that out. That looks good. I'm actually gonna go ahead and pour the rest of this in here. And a little bit more of that rice. And voila, you have like a one-pot dish. And the good thing is too that you can freeze this. So if you have more than enough for just dinner tonight, you can have lunch tomorrow, dinner 2 days from now, and you didn't have to cook a second time. And the beauty of doing this separately, I am one that I'm not a really huge fan of rice and grains. My body just doesn't like it that much. So I'm doing like twice the amount of vegetables. And that's the beauty of being able to do these in your own home, that you put in as much rice as you want. So I put in half of my rice, and there is what my finished product looks like. And it probably doesn't look as good on your side as it does on mine. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it into a plate or into a bowl. And then we're gonna try it, see how it is. And we might have to add a little bit more of the spices, or maybe a little bit more salt. It's all gonna just depend on how you like the flavor of your dish. Okay? So anybody else ready to try?
Okay, I am. Here's what mine looks like.
Oh, awesome. I'm gonna take a nice big spoonful. I didn't do a very good job of mixing because I just got a huge chunk of rice in there. And because this is, I think you can use a fork for eating this one instead of just waiting for, or instead of just using a fork. So if anybody is wanting to show theirs on the camera, well, I did see yours already. So this is what it looks like. And now I'm gonna try it because that's the best part. And I'm gonna try to get a little bit of everything into one bite. That's gonna be the challenge, right? And as you can see, it's steaming, so I might have to wait another minute. That looks awesome. Very good. If you haven't gotten the chance to try it, you're in for a treat. Might need a little bit more salt though.
Very good.
Because my rice didn't have any of the broth in it, so I need a little bit more of my sea salt. And I'm gonna try again. Yum, yum, yum.
Very good.
You like it?
Yeah. Very, very good.
Ooh. I'm showing you how I took too big of a spoonful
Oh, it's okay.
and the rice didn't quite make it to my mouth. It's very, very good. I like the combinations. And I think this will be nice and filling too for most people. But
Yeah.
the beauty is it's easy. That took us what? Not even 40 minutes to make. So from start to finish, that's actually pretty good. And then
Really good.
to try to make some more tomorrow and add to it.
Yeah. I took the squash and I took the big chunks and I actually diced them up into smaller chunks that it would cook better.
And that's the key part. You have to take the chunks and make them smaller, otherwise they take forever to cook.
Mhm.
Same thing with the broccoli and same thing with the cauliflower. If you make it smaller, they cook faster. So then it becomes much more of a, combined dish. But bon appetit, and let me know how you like yours.
Gina
Then I
actually
can
bought
tell
the,
you what we're making next week.
rice cauliflower.
You can do that too.
Yeah.
But I think with the rice cauliflower, yeah, it can definitely work either way. You could do half rice and half rice cauliflower. So, oh, I forgot to put the walnuts in. You knew there was something missing. That'll give it a little extra crunch.
Yeah.
If you're putting in about a quarter cup, maybe a little bit more, maybe more like a third of a cup of walnuts into your risotto. Let me see how that flavors. I think what it does is it adds extra texture. So it doesn't do anything to the flavor, but it definitely adds some texture. It adds some of those anti-inflammatory vitamin E and essential fatty acids. So let me go get the recipe for what we're going to make next week. There's something with portobello mushrooms. We're on a vegetarian streak, so I'll be right back while you eat. So we're gonna do crispy portobellos with a Marsala sauce. And if we want to add chicken, we can do that too. But it's gonna be portobello with the Marsala sauce.
That sounds good.
Something a little bit different. But this way, if we want to keep it vegetarian, we can. If you want to, have this as a side dish to go with, with a piece of chicken or a piece of fish, that would be a good thing too.
That's actually good go with
For
as a
shrimp.
side dish for
Shrimp.
like any fish dish or.
Yeah.
Fish.
So thank you for joining. And if you have any questions, you can contact me, Joanna Hodorowska, at www.nutritioninmotion.net. And if you enjoyed the class and would like to have more, then you can contact me and I can let you know what the next class is. And you can also donate a $10 donation via Venmo in the link provided below. Have a great night and enjoy your meal. Bon appetit.